The game is
Welcome to From Finland with Love. In the 1997 movie Tomorrow Never Dies, James Bond has a real fun gadget. He has a mobile phone that has a lot of functions. He can pick locks with it, he can scan fingerprints, he can stun people, he can even steer his car with this phone. I was lucky enough to get one of these dummies in the early 2000s, and I've since then been wondering, how did it go when they designed it? Was it so that some lucky designer at Ericsson one day got the task to design a phone for James Bond? And who was it? How did it go? Did he get to work together with Eon Production, who makes the movies? We know nothing about that. So I've been doing a little bit of detective work, and I've managed to find the person who designed this phone. It's Tom Waldner, and he got the dream job to design this phone. So Tom was kind enough to agree to give an interview and tell us everything he knows about this phone and the design job. Let's start by asking Tom, is he a movie fan and a James Bond fan?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not a really big movie fan. I do watch the Bond movies. I find them entertaining. And I watch movies now, of course, on Netflix and Viaplay, these kind of things. These days, we don't go to the theater very much, but I wouldn't say that I'm a movie fan. No, I'm not. I kind of have other interests.
Yeah, it's a little bit typical that those guys who get the coolest job in movies, they aren't really into movies so much.
Yeah, that's kind of and then other people have jobs and you're envious. Wow, I wish I was doing that.
Exactly. I'm a designer too, and doing something for a James Bond movie would be fantastic. But hey, before we dig into the phone, can you tell a little bit about your background as a designer? Are you an industrial designer, and how did you?
Yes, I was educated in Los Angeles, where I was born and raised. And when I started as a designer, actually, when I was 18 years old, working part-time while I was going to design university in Los Angeles. And I met my Swedish wife in 1982, and I came to Sweden in 1984. I started more or less immediately working at a small consultancy in Malmo for one gentleman in Malmo, and really had a great time working with him. And we worked alone, him and I, for 10 years. He's 25 years older than me. He still just lives a few kilometers from me. And we started working on a lot of mobile telephone projects already in 1986. We were approached by Ericsson Mobile Communications to do the first analog mobile telephones. We actually started on a car phone first, and then we quickly advanced every generation. So since 1986, we were working on mobile telephones at that little office.
Okay, cool.
And then that work, developed with Ericsson, and it became very, very prevalent in our office. And then after 10 years, we started hiring people. So by the mid 90s, late 90s, we were 6-8 people, and we actually had people from Ericsson who were designers at Ericsson from the US sitting in our office in Malmo, and we were still a consultant, and we were designing. By that time, we were designing the digital phones, and we had designed like 20 different products. And in 1998, Ericsson Mobile Communications acquired our consultancy and appointed me chief designer for Ericsson Mobile Communications. In 2000, we moved up to Lund office, and we then were in the integration with Sony to create the joint venture Sony Ericsson. I had a little 7-year sojourn. I left and went and worked for Tetra Pak for 7 years, working on packaging design in their R&D department. And then I came back to Sony Ericsson in 2008 and started working on smartphones immediately with them in 2008. In 2010, we released our first Android phones at Sony Ericsson. And then the joint venture was ended in 2014, and Sony Mobile Communications was formed. And I worked for them for approximately 2-3 years. And now I am the director of Design Center Europe Nordic, We have a sister studio in the UK, and we do not work very much on mobile telephones anymore. We're working on new businesses and Internet of Things products now. So things have changed a lot in all those years.
Yeah, yeah. And the design is becoming more and more invisible.
We're more and more involved in what you call UX design, user experience design, and solution design. So we don't only deal with the hardware as part of an overall solution to a product. And there's a lot of cloud solutions and, like I said, communications, IoT solutions involved in the products these days.
Okay. Is it boring for a designer that it kind of, you don't get to design all the buttons and antennas and all of that nowadays anymore?
In some ways, yes, it's boring, because I think most industrial designers are hardware geeks at heart, and they love to design hardware. We still get to do that. The situation we're in with our studio is that we're more of a future studio, meaning we work on products that are maybe 1 or 2 or even 3 steps away from becoming product. So we're not doing very much pipeline work, we call it, which is like we don't even know the release date of what we're doing. So it's more futurology and more projection forward.
Yeah.
Sort of like the Bond phone in many ways.
Exactly. I was just thinking that was definitely a future project.
Yeah.
And some of those functions, or at least steering the car, is possible nowadays with a mobile phone. Yeah.
5G.
Yeah. Hey, can you tell a little bit about? Do you know how the collaboration kind of started between Ericsson and the production company Eon?
Well, we were working in Malmo, and I don't all the timing in the years. You probably know more about it than I do, but we were. I believe at that point we were only 3 people: myself and a gentleman named Eric Algren and Richard Lindahl, the owner of the company, and we were doing lots and lots of work for Ericsson. And one of their marketing guys called us up and said, "Hey, we're gonna do a concept phone that we'll be using the Bond film." And this was the first time they approached us, and we're like, "Really? Why?" And he's like, "That's cool." And he says, "Yeah, there's a sort of a product placement collaboration between Ericsson and this company, and we need his phone." So he was up in Lund, he came down to Malmo, and he basically said, "We don't know anything. We just, want you to design a phone that's going to steer a car." He gave us a list of functions that we were going to do, and I said, "Well, how much time?" And he says, "You have 2 weeks."
Okay.
So you have 2 weeks to develop a concept, and so, of course, what you do in that situation is you ask yourself, "Well, what am I going to do? Am I going to start from scratch?" And he says, "Of course, we want to give a sneak peek of kind of like the design styling and approach that we will have in the future, but we don't want to show them too much. We can't just take an existing phone and redo it. We have to kind of take the design language and apply it to this new concept entirely and think much more in the future." So they didn't approach it, and he says, "What we're going to do is we're going to make some quick models, and then we're going to send them over to the UK, and we'll then make final models, which have to be done actually relatively quickly." It was only about in total about 2 months away. We had to do the final model for the filming industry. So what I did was I looked at what was on our drawing board for the products that we were working on, which of course super stressed out to finish those projects. So I sat down and I just sketched out on paper. Unfortunately, I don't have the sketches anymore, but I just sketched down on paper what we were looking at, how we would do the functions, and how it was quite complicated because if I remember correctly, it's like a flip phone with these controls on the inside, and how to do that. So I just sketched it out, and then this is pretty much pre-computer, pre-CAD days. All right.
Okay.
We were using computers, but it's mostly 2-dimensional CAD design. So what I would do back in those days is I would sketch it out in 2D, and then I would make a model out of foam, out of high density foam, classic industrial design. So I cut it out and I shaped the foam and I made all the details, and you put little pieces of paper that you print on your printer to show the display, and you kind of fake it out in this model. And then we sent that over to the UK, if I remember correctly. It may very well be that we just took photographs and sent those over. And we may have even been using a fax at that point, because
Okay.
I think we had email then. We sent it over, and it looked interesting to them, and they had more feedback on what the functions should be and the look and feel, but they were basically okay with it. I think one of the big questions was like these control panels, because they wouldn't give us the manuscript, right?
Okay,
They're
yeah.
super secretive. They won't tell you anything. And
Yeah,
even today, today in my job, we work with Sony Pictures Entertainment on content and promotion for films. And we can't even show content that we do now in promotion for SPE, for Sony Pictures Entertainment, to the chief of the creative center.
Oh.
So we do the work, and every month we tell them what kind of work we're doing over in our studio. And we have this slide with just everything's blanked out because it's secret. So we can't even internal in Sony show Sony Pictures Entertainment stuff. It was the same way back then. They're super secretive. So they were very, very fluffy on what actually the thing was going to be used for in the film. I didn't know. I just needed to know you need this function.
Okay, yeah.
And then they came back, and I redesigned the phone using, much more detailed design using probably Illustrator or Photoshop to, do front view, side view, really nice, almost photorealistic look and feels of that. And then we do 2D CAD drawings. And then I worked with a model maker in Malmo, Sweden. We had basically two guys in a shop who make all of the final visual models for Ericsson. And they manufactured, with my guidance, a model that looks like the real thing. It looks like the prop. All right. It's painted silver. It has the graphics, everything final. It cost a god awful amount of money, to make them. So we make that model, and then I fly over to London. And that was an experience in itself, because some guy meets me at the airport. He drives me down to downtown London to a office where he shows me a bunch of stuff about the film, and we hang out, and I'm really impatient because we're wasting a lot of my time. And then we drive up to the studios north of London, these famous studios, and they take me into the to the actual stage in the filming studio. And it's really weird because they gave me a tour of the shop where they're making the storyboards for the film, and they're making like simple mock-ups and props of the scenes, and it's all really analog.
Oh, cool.
But there are tons of people working there. There's like hundreds of people in the shop where they were doing the storyboards. In the studio, there's like 30, 40 people, and they're all working really cramped, working away. And they showed me how they're doing that. And then we went out into the lot, and I got handed off to like several different people. It was like I was going to see the king,
Okay,
because this guy that was taking care of me, he wasn't allowed into this other zone, so he had to hand me off to another guy. And I had the model in a little pouch with me, right? And he hands me to another guy, and the other guy takes me inside the studio. And what they're doing in there is they're doing test filming of the Bond ladies. So they haven't chosen the Bond lady yet, and they tell me, look, you can't tell anybody who these women are because they hadn't selected them yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know who they are. I'm not a film guy. Like people.
I couldn't if I wanted.
Lots of people standing around. Everybody's really quiet. And then the guy says, okay, we have to wait until the director is not busy. Right. So we stand around there for like 30 minutes. And then finally he gets the director's eye. And the director comes over and he says, okay, let's see the model. So I pull out the model and I open it up and I hand it over to the guy. And this model is really expensive and it's really fragile. So while he's holding it, I'm like holding my hands underneath him. And he looks at me and he goes, what do you do? What do you think? I'm going to drop it and break it? And I'm like, yeah. And he laughs and he goes, don't worry, I'm not going to drop it. And he looks at it, I don't know, like 30 seconds. He says, it's great. And then closes it. And then the next thing we do is we drive probably another 20, 30 minutes away to a model shop. And in the model shop, they have the cars. I think they were, what was the car?
It was the BMW 750 IL or something like that.
They had like two of those cars. in the shop, and they were modifying both of those cars. And I meet a model maker, and I ask him what he looks at the model, and they have a full shop there. And I says, "What are you gonna do?" Is I'm going to make like 4 or 5 of these models. I'm going to replicate them because if one breaks, we have to have one on hand.
Yeah.
Can't stop the filming. It happens really, really fast. And they built 2 cars because they needed to have a backup, and they needed to film in different places at the same time and so on. So then I left the model, and that guy apparently made the replicas. And I didn't hear anything after that.
Okay.
I just went back to Sweden, and I was like, go back to work and do the real work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of, when you're working on a lot of projects, you just like, okay, that project's done, let's go to the next project. And time went on, and then the film was going to come out, and I was like, I had no idea. Of course, you don't know how they used it or how much or what's going to happen or anything. So that's how it happened. It happens really quick. It's a lot of work, and of course, I'm working on 3 or 4 other projects at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're not too, in the moment, maybe you're not thinking, what the ramifications are of it.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge prop actually. It has so many functions. I don't know if there's any other gadget in a Bond movie that has that many functions. And it's seen for, I counted it one day. I had to check. It's like 6.5 minutes when we see the phone in function. It's a lot of time. So when you were sitting there, did you go and see how did you see the movie, by the way? How did it feel there?
The movie had a premiere in Malmo, okay, at one of the largest theater in Malmo. And the whole auditorium was booked by Ericsson, so for employees only. And it was a bit unfortunate because I was really, really busy working on projects, and I managed, and my colleagues, they went there, and I was still in the office working, and on some project, I don't remember which. And I remember I was like looking at my watch, like, oh, do I have to really go to this film? Do I really need to go? And it's like, maybe I should just stay here and keep working, because I love working on projects. That's everything that's done is done. And but I figured, well, it's a big deal. The head of Ericsson's mobile division will be there, and I need to go there. So and it wasn't that far from the office because we were working in downtown Malmo. So I just threw my coat on. I remember it was a rainy day, and I ran across the square and up the road to the theater, and I ran in there just as the credits were starting. So I snuck in, and they had saved a seat for me in the front, and I sat down and I watched the movie, and it was great because everybody was cheering, and when the props came on, and saw the whole movie. Yeah, and then afterwards there was a little champagne and stuff in the lobby, so it was quite nice.
Wow. I mean, it sounds a little bit like that you've experienced how it is to be the real Q with the delivering of the phone and everything. But you've been so busy, so you didn't even have time to really enjoy it. It's just
you just reminded me. This brings back a lot of memories, because that same year I went to Las Vegas to CES, the Computer Electronics Show. Yeah. And we had a stand there. And of course, they were using the model and the Bond film as a part of their marketing, right? And when I was there, I didn't know this. I was just walking. I went to CES mostly just to see all kinds of other electronics, doing research. And I went, of course, to the Ericsson stand, and then I see the marketing guy, and I still his name has slipped me. He's a Danish guy. He's a super nice guy. He doesn't work for us anymore. And he goes, "Hey, Tom, come over here. I have Q here in the stand." Meet this older Englishman. I don't know his name, but this Q guy, right? Yeah. So I shake his hand.
The real Desmond, the real. Oh, fantastic.
The actor, yeah. And he's just as uncomfortable as I am. I'm like, "Oh, I recognize you," and he's like, "Oh, this is the designer of the phone," and we say hi and we have exchanged a few words. So that was a lot of fun to see that.
Wow, amazing. So you delivered the one replica of the prop, and then someone else, you don't know what they did a lot of versions of it, all the functioning, like the things that open up, and also so was your model already one that had kind of opened up?
Yeah, you could. It was a solid piece of
Yeah,
plastic that had all the cosmetics exactly as it's
yeah,
supposed to be, and you could open up the display. And there
yeah,
was no, there's of course there's no functional electronics in
yeah,
the product
yeah,
whatsoever. And as I understand that model maker, he essentially used that. I didn't give him any drawings. He just took that model and he
yeah,
built those those versions
yeah.
in order to
There's
work
actually,
in different scenes of the movie. And
yeah,
then the they composite the digital content of the filming onto the display in the
yeah.
movie, of course,
There's
because the
actually
prop doesn't work.
no, no. And there's been I've seen one version which is actually thicker, which has the blue screen, kind of a light lit up blue screen, which makes it easier to insert the graphics. So there's a couple of
Oh,
different versions, and even in the movie, if you look closely, you can see a couple of different versions. You can see one where it says this JB 988 in the corner, and in the next picture that is missing. So they haven't been really consistent with that. Do you know where the name came from? Did you come up with it, or did they come up with it? Or
oh, JB means James Bond.
yeah, but 998 it came out. But what's
Well,
988?
those numbers were similar to the numbers we were using on the product series during those days. So we had things like the GH888 and the GH988
Yeah,
number. All right. So
yeah,
we just used a number series that was following the convention and
okay,
that we had on our products at the time to make it seem like a product
yeah,
that was done by Ericsson.
yeah. So they made a couple of different versions for the movie, and then there are some promotional ones that were made, and probably you were probably not involved in that in any way. But one question about that, because the ones that you find that some collectors have, I happen to have one of these also. There's two different like insides of the phone, and this is the one you see in the movie. But then there's also another one which instead of this kind of uh, pads looking like this, it has got four smaller pads. Do you remember? Did you design this one or another version of it?
I don't remember.
Okay, okay, okay. So this still will remain a mystery of how many are out there and this and that. Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have a? You don't have one left. You don't have a prop phone
No,
left.
I have
Yeah.
some photographs somewhere I have 5 or 6 boxes in my cellar of
Yeah.
all that work from those years. I probably have some photographs of it lying
Yeah.
around.
Because I mean, they gave
Those
them.
those models um, cost $3,000
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah. And
Right?
now they are even more
Really
expensive.
expensive models, so you don't get to keep any models.
Yeah, but some of these were given out for PR. They did a bunch of these for PR use, and managers from different countries they got these, and I got one that the Sony Ericsson.
How did you get that?
I got it from Ericsson at that time, maybe the year 2000 or something like that, and it had been lying around there in some drawer, and I was working with Ericsson at that time. We did fairs and we did some advertising and stuff, and then they knew I was a Bond fan, so they gave it to me, and I was totally amazed, and there we don't know how many there are, but a bunch of them were made for promotional use and given out. So, but it is one of the holy grails of crazy Bond collectors like me, because it's almost impossible possible to get hold of them, and also it's such a major prop. It's a great movie. It's a fun movie, and it has so many interesting functions, and it's still kind of not ridiculous. Like it still feels really cool. And also then from a designer point of view, I think it's a fantastically beautifully designed phone. It's really really nice. I really like the big screen. I really hope that Ericsson would have for real come out with this phone, and the closest one that they came out with was this the R320, and then there was the flip phone also, the R380. Were you involved in designing those also?
Well, that phone there has I don't remember the numbers. All right, I have different names in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
head, but that phone was based on the product that had on my tabletop, which was the T28.
yeah,
And then there was I think it was the R3. You said the R320,
Yeah, that looks
which
very
was
very much like this, but it
yeah,
has a
which was a
smaller
small.
screen.
Yeah, well, the T28 was the little miniature with the flip,
Yeah,
and then there was the bigger sister, which is what we call a brick or a candy bar phone, which is
yeah.
the yeah. Those were those two products I designed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you have? I mean, did this set the style for them, or did you already have this style in your head when the direction was going in this?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, they were already on the drawing board.
Yeah.
Okay. So though and again, the time in my head is it's so long ago
Yes,
that
I
I don't
understand.
remember, but it's highly likely that those designs were on the drawing table.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
or they were even further along than that. So it's not like I didn't design the Bond phone first and then put it in the product. I designed the
yes.
real pipeline products first, and then I put elements of that into this product.
Yeah. So we got kind of a clue of how the future phones will look like,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and of course it's much easier working on a product like that prop because there's no technical restrictions. There's no technical conditions that I have to pay attention to.
yeah,
When designing a mobile phone, the antenna restrictions, the internal stack up of the componentry, all the mechanical design, it's super complicated.
yeah,
So there's so many restrictions. It's like to be honest with you, anybody that is a designer, a student designer, don't get me wrong, students are super talented. You can design that prop because there's no technical constrictions.
yes, yes. I understand, but it's also like somehow if you look at many of these phones, I had most of those models because we got them for free from Ericsson just to use them, and when we worked with Ericsson and somewhere nicer and somewhere not, somewhere looked kind of some haven't kind of aged so well, but this the T28 and the R320 and also the flip phone the R380, which was really cool, the one that had ingenious mechanism with plastic buttons pressing the screen. I mean, that was a fantastic phone, very beautiful, and that also followed this style a lot. And those have all aged really well. They have a fantastic design.
Thank you.
Did you also were you involved in the flip phone? Did you?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
It's the
Okay, it was the one with the flip that had it looked like that product you have in your hand, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I designed that one also.
yeah, and it had the flip, and the flip didn't have any electronics. It was just the buttons were pressing the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, I hated that. I thought it was the dumbest idea ever.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic
I
because
didn't.
it was so simple.
I fought really hard for them to remove the flip and just use a touch screen, make a full touch screen smartphone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the touch technology, which was I believe it's called capacitive. The touch technology was really poor,
Yeah,
so that the accuracy of the touch was really poor. But also, they thought that people don't know how to use a touch screen.
yeah, but it had this little pen on the behind.
They underestimated people's ability to learn a touch screen, like it's
Yeah,
impossible. But now look at today, everything has a touch screen.
yeah, yeah,
That's what I was saying. Look, people will figure this out, and the people that buy this phone, they're not going to be. It's not going to be your grandma. It's going to
yeah,
be tech people that leading edge people that are interested in technology. So they're going to think it's cool. Now you're making it. But they tried to make it more mass market. I think it was a mistake. It's really complicated mechanics to do that and
yeah.
expensive. So I was against it.
Okay, okay. There was this series called My First Sony with really simple Sony products for children, and I was always thinking that when I tried to teach my grandma how to use the VCR, that they should make a range called My Last Sony, which also very simple design.
Yeah, well, there's companies that make those kind of phones today.
When, for instance, the antenna came off, or there was this fingerprint scanner and all of these, those did you know about those? Did you plan how they would kind of work? That this little flip will open up when it does the fingerprint scanner, or did kind of the further production?
No, I had to figure that out.
Yeah,
Those are the features that they added after
yeah,
we did the initial model.
yeah. So you did all of those.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
It just said you have so many. You have so. I don't have a model. I've forgotten what the model even looks like. Can you show the features on the model?
Yeah, well, the thing is that this one is the promotional one, and which
So
they
it
also
doesn't have
used.
all the features. But I remember
It,
you could remove the antenna.
yeah.
Right?
Then this one kind of flipped up, and then in one scene you see that there's a small camera here behind, which is scanning the fingerprint, and the other versions you see it from the behind when he's talking. Pierce Brosnan is talking in his car. Then there is no eye, so that's a different version. And then there's the one where these come out, and I think they did different phones for every function.
Yeah, they had these two metal
Spikes, yeah.
that stuck out. I forgot what those were for. Was that like a taser or something?
Yeah, taser. He could open a lock, and he also tased this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I forgot the thing about the flipping up on the display, but
Yeah.
the little taser things, I remember. I had to design how those would flip out and stuff.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's a pity they didn't give. I think you should have gotten one of these. It was really mean of them.
It's okay. I mean,
I've made my own version of this phone.
that's really impressive.
But the thing is that it's kind of fake, because the thing is that it's actually, it looks really good like this, but since no one has managed to make a good 3D printed version of it, I've done some trickery and used my graphic skills, and the front is actually a sticker. And the buttons are these kind of domed stickers glued on, and then it's all put on a kind of what's it called, a plexi, kind of a 3mm plexi, and I've cut out the stickers so that you can see through the plexi, and the other sticker is on the back side. But it kind of looks really convincing, but it's an easier way to make something, because all the 3D models I've seen, it's really difficult to make it look super convincing. All these kind of numbers and all shapes, to make them sharp enough.
You can go to a professional model maker and have it made. We do that still now today. That model would probably cost you between probably about 6,000 euros today to make one.
Hey, thank you, Tom. It was really great talking to you, and thank you for sharing. And I'm going to put this on YouTube and share this information with other Bond geeks like me, if it's okay.
Great. Thanks a lot for calling.
Thanks a lot.
And please send me the link so I can see it myself.
I will do it. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was something. Imagine to get this assignment to design the phone, and then to travel to London with this phone, like the real Q, and go to the set and deliver the phone. I mean, it seems like Tom was so busy at that time that he didn't even have time to really enjoy it. Let's hope that Tom watches this video and afterwards understands how amazing it actually was. Thank you, Tom Waldner, for the interview. This has been For Finland with Love. Take care, be safe, and have fun.